Hi, I'm Chris James, and you're watching A Healthy Alternative. Today, we have an amazing guest. As you guys know, I wear glasses. I've been wearing glasses since I was like in second grade. So I've always dealt with it. And at some point in time in my journey, I wanted to learn how to reverse my myopia so that I could see 20/20 and throw the glasses away. Well, along my journey, I came across this amazing man I have here in front of me. His name is Jake Steiner, and he is the founder of inmyopia.org. And he actually has reached out to me so that we could kind of do this interview and speak to my audience about how to reverse myopia. So I'm really, really excited to have him on the show. We're going to get into this right now, so stay tuned. It's coming up next. We're missing a piece of the puzzle.
You start getting healthy and you just become a better person.
We need to start focusing more on the individual. All right, Jake, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thanks for having me on, Chris. I'm doing great.
Man, this is obviously one of them topics that's really near and dear to my heart. I really would love to get some background information from you because I've always watched your videos and I see that you don't wear glasses. You obviously aren't wearing contacts, but at one point in time you did wear glasses, right?
Yeah, I did. And I started off in my early teens and I ended up with -5 diopters, which for context is like they were like really thick around the edges. It was like to the point where my eyes were looking really small. So yeah, I had really strong glasses at one point.
Oh yeah, that's my eyes aren't even that bad. I think they're -4.5 or something, 4.4, 4.2. So
yeah, it's still enough where you put them down and you don't remember where you put them. You're never
right.
going to find them.
It's definitely like if I put my glasses down, especially if it's like dark, I'm like kind of trying to feel for them. So, and I can't see my clock in the morning when I wake up. I gotta put my glasses on before I can even know what time it is. So that's annoying.
Yeah. And we don't even think about that, right? Like, because now I don't wear glasses anymore. I completely don't remember any of that stuff. Like that was my life at one point.
Well, I'm happy. I'm encouraged that you've gotten past that point. How long has it been since you've kind of reversed your myopia?
I started with it, and somebody asked me this, and I honestly had no idea it's been that long. It's been almost 20 years since I
Wow.
started messing with this, but -5 diopters, and at the time there was absolutely nothing out there that was like a way to reverse it. Like there was Bates method and stuff, but it was before real internet, and you had to go to the library, so there were no tools. It took me kind of a long time.
The library. Yeah, that was. You don't look that old, but clearly, if you know about the library, you got some age on you there.
I am that old, man. Way before the internet.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So so what was it that decided, like, how did you decide that you wanted to reverse your myopia? Like, I mean, I wore glasses, like I said, since the second grade. And it was only recently, maybe in my early 30s, that I decided that I wanted to reverse it. But what was the trigger for you?
That's a good question, and the answer is totally not glamorous because, like, I was on a swim team as a kid, and my vision was getting worse and worse and worse, and it got to the point where, like, this, you take off your glasses, you're in a place where you can't see anything. So like going to different cities and different swimming pools and like competing and not being able to just see anything. And at the time, like the goggles with the corrections weren't that popular yet, like was rough, but I didn't think about doing anything about it. I played water polo, and as my vision was getting worse, like the ball just was more and more this blurry yellow thing. Didn't think about improving my eyesight, like didn't even cross my mind, even though it was screwing up my hobbies a lot. What actually did it is just vanity. Because like I got these, I don't remember exactly, like it was right around -5 diopter glasses, and it's just like because those edges were so thick. And I remember I got them, like my parents sent them over because I was traveling, and I got them in the mail and I was all excited, and I pulled them out and I put them on my face, and I was just like, man, I look terrible, right? Because what I was saying before, like my eyes were like really small, and I'm like looking at myself in the mirror, and like I don't know, I was a single guy, and I was just like, this sucks. Like
Yeah.
this sucks. So it was totally vanity. Like it's and like with myopia, and when people are like thinking about, or when I talk to people about improving the eyesight, like people usually are like, I don't really care. Like I don't care enough to do anything about it. And it always leaves me with this frustration. I'm like, because once you start and you realize this stuff is easy, right? And like once you make the first reduction or two and you realize that your eyesight improves and you get this experience like for real, like I don't need that high correction glasses, then you stick with it. Like most people that start get all the way back to 2020 because once you start it, you're like, this is no big deal. But getting to that point is pretty hard.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean that's like I said, man. You know, if I think if when I very first started this process, if I would have found you and your website and everything like that, I probably would have done it right then and there. But I ended up going, you know, probably stumbling through some of the things that you mentioned, the Bates method, and other people have written books who are just pretty much like promoting the Bates method. And it was just like, man, it kind of discouraged me a little bit. And I had been at it for almost a year. And then I came across your information and I really just kind of put it on the back burner because I was just like, yeah, well, I can still see. It's really just that mentality. Like I can still function. And I think I was mentioning to you earlier, I had screwed with my glasses, and the new glasses I was wearing was hurting my eyes. And that was almost a blessing in disguise because it invigorated me. It was like, okay, I got to fix this, because my eyes are, you know, they're hurting. They're sore all the time. So, like, how long did it take you to actually go from you said -5 to 2020, your -5 diopter?
It's kind of like, because I was the first test case. Like when I was messing with this, I had no intention of starting a website or doing any of this stuff. So like 10 years ago, I was still wearing like -1 diopters at night and for driving and stuff. And there were like times when I went up a little bit and I wasn't sure, like the last diopter was really kind of killing me. It took me a long time. Now on average, if you start, like normal is every 3 to 4 months, your vision gets better enough to where you need, or you can use lower correction glasses. And I got to say that Bates method thing, by the way, like people wonder sometimes why I get so ranty about Bates method. It's exactly what you said. It's like that. It was a good idea. It was a dude 100 years ago who said, man, glasses aren't the right answer, but we didn't understand biology well enough yet. So like he had the right idea with the tools he had at the time, but optometry basically kicked him out. And if we would have followed Bates' idea from back then, today people wouldn't be wearing glasses. But it's 100-year-old idea, and people now are still trying to work on a thing that comes from our biological understanding from 100 years ago. And back then we didn't have screens, and back then we didn't buy these higher and higher correction glasses.
Right.
So that stuff doesn't work today, and it wouldn't matter, except just like you, like we run out, like you find a thing and you try the thing and you're all excited, and then it doesn't work. And then you kind of used up your ambition on that. So for people who find me from this and who see some of my Bates method stuff, it's not that I'm like out of my mind. It's just really annoying that that's like the big thing out there.
Right. You know, sometimes I feel like when it comes to healing, reversing conditions, or, you know, however you want to put it, I feel like there's forces out there who put stumbling blocks in our way to make sure that we aren't able to achieve our goals for whatever reason. I know that when it comes to the things that I speak about on a healthy alternative, I mean, there's a ton of stumbling blocks out there. Just for like diabetes is huge, you know, and there's a lot of misinformation that is put out there by mainstream sources that cause people to kind of hold on to this disease when they don't have to. So I wonder if that's the same for our eyes. I wouldn't see why not. But
yeah, and actually There's a pretty big stumbling block out there. It's myopia.org. Terrible website. I get that a lot. Like whenever people come to it, they're like, "Man, this is just too much stuff."
Uh,
And that's actually something we're finally working on right now, because the website was sort of reflecting my attitude a little bit.
mm-hmm.
Whereas like I'll give you the tools, but like people would always ask me to do all the work for them, and I always had this kind of like, "You don't know how hard it was for me, man."
Right.
So it's definitely still like, even I can't blame you if you went there and you're like, "I'm going to do this later," because that's a lot of stuff. Where I'm not doing people any favors, because it is super simple. It
Oh,
really
okay.
is. It is super simple, man. It is super simple.
Let's get into some of the methodology, I guess. So you've got a brand new person who wants to reverse their myopia. How do you kind of start them on this path? What are some of the things they need to be doing?
Okay. So a couple of things. The first thing is kind of what we're talking about so far, is like, you got to have a reason to do it, right? Like you got to go, okay, what would I do if I didn't need these stupid things on my face? Right? Like not maybe a serious goal, but just something like, picture a life without, where you can read your alarm clock in the morning, or you're not like, I got to remember where I put my glasses. So you kind of got a reason to do it. It's worthwhile, because that makes it easier to just kind of navigate your way through the first learning curve.
Okay.
And then the second thing, the single biggest thing, and the reason you wound up with minus 4.5 or whatever, is you didn't take those things off when you were looking at a screen. And you started out with lower correction, right? Like when you got your first glasses and they were like -1 or minus 1.5, if you would have always taken them off while you're looking at close-up stuff, your myopia would have never gotten worse. Like that is the number one thing. Like if your eyes are still getting worse today, if you only take one thing away from this, is go buy yourself a pair of glasses. They're like about, I want to say 1.5 diopters lower than what you got right now. And always wear those when you're looking at your screen, and your eyes will not get worse.
Got it.
Like that's a starting point. And that's a real simple starting point, where at least if you're like, man, I'm not ready for this, but every time I go to the optometrist, it's like worse,
Mm-hmm.
then reducing the diopters for close-up will fix the thing, because that's what's causing your myopia to increase, is you're wearing glasses that are way too strong while you're looking at a screen.
Okay. So I did, like I mentioned earlier, I did grab some glasses, and I didn't do, I guess, enough research on, how to properly reduce. So would you suggest that people go to an eye doctor and have them reduce the prescription, or how would you suggest people go about, getting these glasses?
That's tricky, because it totally depends where you live and what kind of optometrist you find. Technically, they can, but most of them, or a lot of them, generally won't, because there's this mainstream belief that myopia is some kind of mysterious genetic illness, which it absolutely isn't. But if you walk into an optometrist that comes from that school of thought, they're probably not going to help you. And there's kind of a pretty negative attitude in mainstream optometry towards you wanting better eyesight. They're literally saying the only thing that happens is your eyes get worse, period, end of story.
Got it.
So it's awesome if you find a good one, and they're good ones. And in our Facebook group, they're good ones, but they generally don't talk about it too loudly, because they don't want to get in trouble with the optometry boards, who generally disagree with this too. So if you find a friendly one, like you show up with some coffee and donuts and you go, hey man, these glasses give me headaches. I use my computer a lot. Can I get some lower correction glasses for my close-up? If they help you out, that's awesome. Otherwise, it's one of those things where you got to research enough to where you know what you're doing, and you buy them online.
Okay. And I'm assuming all of that information is available on your website.
It is. And what I was saying before, it does take, like, I want to say, just think of it as a few weeks of research and exploring to understand it, because it's still not presented. Like, I've got a 7-day email that kind of walks you through a lot of it. That is a starting point. And there's a a ton of guides on the website. The problem is I've been doing this for so long that every time like a question comes up or a problem comes up, I'm like, all right, here's how you fix it. And I write an article and I throw it on there. So now there's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these, and they're not super well organized. So like there's definitely a few weeks where you're putting together, okay, here's why my eyes are getting worse, and here's how I stop it, and here's how diopters work, and here's how I measure my eyesight. Like measuring your own eyesight, you don't need to go to an optometrist. You can do it at home. It's super simple. You're just measuring how far can I see before there's blur. Mm-hmm. That's all glasses are, right? Like there's nobody tells you this, but it's literally like diopters, like the numbers they throw on this so-called prescription. Mm-hmm. It's just a distance, how far you can see, right? So it's like you spend a little bit of time putting that together, but once you do, it's like, it's so simple. Like I can see 50 centimeters or however many inches that is before blur starts, and that equals so many diopters. So those are the glasses I need.
Okay.
And from there, you can buy them online, right? And then if you want to improve your eyesight, again, I don't recommend you just go buy glasses, but to give you the condensed version, you basically always buy glasses that are a little tiny bit less quote unquote strong than what gives you like perfect vision, right? So you can still see clearly enough, you can still recognize your friends and right, all's well, but there's a little bit of blur at a distance. So when you're outside and you see like the billboard or the coffee shop menu on the wall, like right. You got to focus on it to clear it up. So your eyes are always a little tiny bit challenged. That's really the main thing that improves your eyesight.
Gotcha. And I hear you talk about this thing called active focus a lot. Is that are we kind of in that realm? Is where you're what is active focus, and how does that kind of tie into this?
It's a word I made up because there was no like clinical. There's a lot of, for people who are curious about this and wonder like what kind of unicorn farming you got on here right now. Scholar.google.com is my favorite internet resource for research because it's Google, but just for clinical science and peer-reviewed studies. Like where you really find just like people doing research on what's going on. So in there you can find keywords like lens-induced myopia, which explains that glasses actually cause myopia, cause nearsightedness.
Wow.
Yeah, like all that stuff is out there. There is no conspiracy. There is no debate. Like what the retail optometrist tells you when they say it's some kind of genetic condition is just straight up nonsense. Like clinical science. And this stuff is published, by the way, in things called journals. And they're basically like magazines for optometrists. Like they're written for optometrists and ophthalmologists, and it's all full of research in the industry. And if you type lens-induced myopia into Google Scholar, you'll get like 50,000 search results. Like, it's not just known. This is just like baseline. Like if you put on glasses, those minus lenses, your vision is going to get worse because that's what those things do. Wow. Right? Like it's like, yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. And that's what I was saying. So if you wear glasses that are a little bit less strong, you're doing the opposite, right? Like and active focus basically is if everything around you is not blurry, it's just like a little bit not clear, and you take like a book or a screen or just some text, like written text works the best, and you move it back till it's blurry, and then you just like blink at it, like you want it to clear up. And this is like the only weird intangible thing in this whole approach that I can't explain like real cut and dry. Yeah, because you got to find it. It's like raising your eyebrow. Like if you know how to do it, you know how to do it. But you got to have that experience at one point where the text looks blurry, and then you blink and all of a sudden it's clear. Like maybe not perfectly clear, but more clear than it was. And you didn't do anything. Like you didn't move your head closer. You didn't change the light. It just, your eyes somehow refocused on it. And that takes like a level of effort. Like once you blink again, or you wait a second and it gets blurry again, because that was an effort towards more clarity. Gotcha. And you kind of build a habit to that, where your glasses that you wear, they're a little bit less strong than making everything super comfortable. So when you look at stuff, right, and you're you're sitting on the subway or whatever, and you're trying to see what the next exit is. You got to like blink at it to clear it up. Like that ongoing stimulus improves your eyesight.
Gotcha. Which makes perfect sense. Now I've heard that with well, I've heard a couple different things, I guess, that causes it. Obviously the lenses, I've always looked at it like the lenses, they're like crutches. That's kind of how I've looked at it. It's like the lenses are a crutch and your eyes aren't functioning. It's like they're not doing the movements and the motions that they're supposed to do. And I always thought that, my eyes were just tired. Then when I started reading, I was reading that the eyes they had too much tension. It was like the muscle was being overworked versus it being weak. It was being overworked. So we needed to relax the eyes. What are your thoughts about, that? Do we need to relax the eyes? Are we strengthening the eyes? Is it just simply going through that process of working the eyesight and letting them kind of focus in and out? What do you think?
Two super simple things. This whole thing is super simple, which is the only reason I can explain any of it. But there's two things that happen. First is that screen distance, like when you're looking at a screen or a book or whatever it is up close, there's a muscle in your eye. It's called a focusing muscle or ciliary muscle. It's like a circular muscle that moves a lens in your eye. And the closer you look at something, the more that muscle is tense. Like it tenses up to look at close-up objects. Okay. And by biological design, like we're not really intended to stare at one fixed close-up distance for super long. So that's why it's made that way. The muscle is relaxed looking at a distance, which is normally in a natural environment what we'd be doing most of the time. And then it's tense for close-up. In our current environment is completely the opposite of natural, where we spend most of our time in close-up. So what happens is that muscle just gets like a spasm, like it's too tight for too long. And then when you finally want to look at a distance, it doesn't completely relax right away. And by the way, Google Scholar, pseudomyopia. Pseudomyopia. And it's funny because you're going to get like 10,000 search results that explains that first myopia, when you first went to the optometrist the first time and you just needed a little bit of glasses, was pseudo, wasn't real. It was just a focusing muscle spasm. And that's not me saying stuff. That's not like internet stuff. That is like how the biology of the eye works. Muscle didn't relax, right? And glasses are the totally wrong answer, because the right answer would have been put the screen down for a weekend, right? Go camping or whatever. And by Sunday, your eyes are going to be fine again. But instead of that, people get glasses, right? Like they never take a break. They always have homework. They're always reading. They're always on screens. Right. So they just get like, when you go to an optometrist, you're in a retail store in a mall, right? And they're selling you glasses, and that's what you're going to get. Right. Like they're not there. Like their job description, their schooling isn't to like help you see better. Right. Their schooling is sell these glasses at X amount markup, right? So the first thing that happens basically is pseudomyopia. Like it's a muscle strain. That's all it is. And then the second thing that happens is if you do put on glasses, like your eyeball, like in the front is a lens and in the back is a thing called the retina that where the light focuses and goes to your brain, right? And the lens shapes the light to hit the retina just perfectly, right? And we were talking about how that lens is shaped when you look up closer and you look at a distance. That's the first mechanism. And then the second mechanism, the whole eyeball like gets longer or shorter based on how well the light focuses on the retina. There's a biological mechanism in the eyeball that regulates how long that eyeball is. And what happens is, as soon as you put on those glasses, what the glasses do is they move the light further back in your eye. Like it compensates for that muscle spasm, right? And all of a sudden you can see clearly. But the other thing that happens that you don't realize is your eyeball now goes, holy crap, my length is wrong. Because of the glasses move the light. So now the eye is like, I need to adjust my length, and then the eyeball grows longer. Right? And that's the increasing myopia. That's how you got to minus 4.5, because every time you put on a little stronger glasses, you could see super great, but your eyes were like, whoops, I'm still too short, and they would grow longer again.
Right.
Yeah. So that's, and those, and let's like clearly explain by clinical science. There's no question about it. That's just how the stuff works. And nobody tells us these things. And even if somebody did tell us these things, most people are like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
Right.
Right. Because we've been brainwashed at this point, and it's not just with eyeglasses or, the eyes, it's the body in general. There's all these ideas out there that there's all these genetic diseases, and there's things that's just going to happen to you just because there's nothing you can do about it. And the only way to treat it is with medical science, modern medical science. And that's just what it is. There is no reversing these things. And I've just found a lot of it to be environmental, and
Yeah. And there's a lot of parallels, right? Like I always say retail optometry on purpose because the same field, and this is also true for a lot of stuff that you deal with, I think, is the scientific side of that whatever medical, or I don't like to call it medical, right? Like these biology science fields, they know, and they're like, okay, this causes diabetes. Like they explain it. Like that, we don't have to look too far to get real explanation. But then there's a retail end, like the people whose job it is to sell you a thing, right? And they got 6 minutes for every patient visit, right? And in the 6 minute, there isn't time to go, look, man, you really shouldn't be eating all these Doritos, right? They can't fix your bigger issues, your mental issues, or how your coping mechanisms or whatever it is. So they're just like, take this and get out of here, right? And then you're happy because you can keep eating Doritos, right? And the pharma industry's happy because they can keep selling you stuff.
Right.
And I think that divide between science, like the answers are out there, and this retail thing where people want a quick fix and the industry is happy to supply a quick fix is what puts us in this place where we're like, we kind of give up,
Absolutely.
Like, sure, I can wear these things. Doritos taste good and these glasses work fine, whatever, right?
Yeah, I have found my glasses to be a hindrance for a few reasons. Number one, I agree with you. I think I look better without glasses. See, I got my Clark Kent going on, right?
Yeah, for sure, no doubt.
So I was kind of vain too. I never liked wearing glasses, but I used to play basketball, and it was a big hindrance. I never got the goggles. I just get hit in the face. My glasses would always be bent and dinged up. And so it's kept me from playing like certain types of sports and things like that. I think we just get used to wearing glasses. When I was a child, I hated the fact that I really couldn't ball the way I wanted to because my glasses would fall off my face or something. Now I just don't play basketball anymore. And I never thought about the fact that I compensated, and I gave up things that I enjoyed because I wore glasses. And then I think about—
Can I tell you something?
Go ahead.
Just one thing, because I only know this from, like, I've dealt with tens of thousands of people, right? I'm not a smart guy. I just see what happens. And you're way better at basketball than you know. Like, I'm telling you, I'm not kidding about this at all. You don't have peripheral vision. Like you do, but it works for shit because you got these lines around your vision, right? And then there's like an extra amount of just blurriness.
Right.
So your visual cortex, the thing that interprets your vision, is like, you're screwed up, man. Don't move, but jump, don't bounce, don't like your skill level has way more potential than your brain. Like your brain's like cutting it off.
Wow.
Like it's putting a limiter on it because it's like, man, there's something not right here. I can't see here and I can't see here. So I'm not going to let you like move the way you can. And I'm not going to give you the confidence. Like it just throttles you back. Because I've seen it a billion times. Like I'm a good example. Like I kite surf, I paraglide, I do all kinds of insane shit that as a teenager, I was super awkward. And like, I thought that I just didn't have any like physical ability till I got rid of my glasses.
Wow.
And then I wasn't even totally aware yet. But then now I'm like, and I'm still kind of nerdy because I feel like glasses made me grow up that way.
Yeah.
But like last month I was kite surfing and like, I'm still amazed at some of the shit I can do. Right. Cause I'm still in this like I grew up with glasses, so a part of me is still like, dude, this is not you. You can't do this. But you have, like, when you have full peripheral vision and like your visual cortex is working, like you're way better at physical stuff than you think, because glasses just totally mess you up.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. I never thought about that, but because I was pretty good, but I wasn't. My handling certainly could have been a little bit better. I just was a really good shooter, and I didn't really play like a big man position. I'm tall, and everybody was wanting me to play a big man position, and I never really wanted to do that. I wasn't pretty. I was good, but I wasn't pretty, like in my movements and whatever. But
To
that's
get rid of
interesting.
those glasses, you have a whole different game. I'm telling you.
Okay. So like I know that for me, I literally was just talking to my brother. I don't even understand. Like there's no coincidences in this world. I was just talking to my brother earlier this week about taking some time off because my schedule is crazy right now, and I really want to take some time off to focus on me physically. We talked about my eyes, wanting to really dig in. I was like, man, I have this resource. I need to start using it, as well as, some other things. And I'm just curious. I know you have your Facebook group and you've got the website. Is there like a course that you offer? Is there like coaching or training, or is it just you go out there and you kind of find the information?
So it really was kind of a good luck with it. I'm putting it all out there now, put it together thing for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
There is a course, but it's not on the website because I provide some one-on-one help, and I can't only do so much of it. So
Okay.
I can't really promote it because I can't promise that it's available.
Okay.
Right now, we've got we're really just playing with this. From all the stuff on the website, and there's literally hundreds of guides, like on all the individual pieces. We got a forum, and the members of our forum put together a guide based on everything that's on the website that we're selling right now. You can also get it for free just by like spending time in the forum and participating, because I'm not trying to sell people things. But that's also out there, kind of like donation supported, because the site keeps getting more expensive as Google's shutting down all our search. So if you have the time, DIY style, just reading through the site totally works. That's what most people had to do, and that's what most people do.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's that guide. I'm not promoting it because it seems to be good, but I want more feedback. I want more people to go, okay, all right, this is doing it for me.
Right.
And then some of the time I do a guided thing, but I can't really promote that.
Gotcha.
Like,
Okay. Well, that's, you're kind of like me a little bit. Like when I very first started A Healthy Alternative, I did everything for free. Like I did
yeah,
coaching and everything for free. And I found that it was like there was a imbalance, because where I get my fulfillment is when someone has an issue, I teach them about their body and how they can heal, and then they accomplish that thing, they reverse that disease. And that's kind of like how you would pay me. People would be like, how can I pay you, Chris? I'm like, share that information with somebody else, so
right.
and then, but people would like, they would like, I'd work with them and then they would go away and I'd never hear from them again, or they wouldn't
Mm.
follow it. And it's like, man, I'm just wasting my time. So I developed an academy where I put all of the information, because I've got like a couple hundred videos on YouTube, put it all in a comprehensive format so that people can just kind of step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. That might be a good route. I don't know. I'm really curious to get into your information and look at it, but forget the selling part about it. I mean, it might be a little bit easier for people to walk through that path. And
Right.
then of course you have to be compensated, because it costs money to put that stuff together and maintain that stuff. But
Yeah. And it's so, like, right now we're in a weird place because for so long I was happy to have it the way it was. And I don't really like talking to people, and I didn't really like it. Was just, it was in a spot where it was working. And then Google started dropping off, that whole, like, Google starting to censor health
Yep.
related information.
I know.
Like, that's huge right now. And it killed our search traffic by like just killed it.
Mm.
So now it's like we got to pay people and do outreach, and like I got to take it to another level, right? And it's
Mm.
good for us. Like I'm happy Google did that, because now I'm like, all right, time to get off our asses and start like promoting this and start making the website better and start making it so like when you and I talk and you're like, I want to get into it, but Jake, it's just like, it's not organized, right? So now we're organizing it, and I'm actually paying people that are familiar with this stuff to do it also. It's going to get a lot more,
Mm.
because I totally hear you. It's going to be a lot more focused, and there's going to be a lot more options. I'll send you that guide too, because I think it's pretty good. It's like 11 chapters long, and it's all just like the things that members use to actually improve their eyesight from the blog. So it's
Okay.
like all the stuff I wrote, but it's put together by people that used it. So I think it's pretty good. And it's a lot more structured than just being stuck with a website.
You're right. Yeah. I mean, and it's that firsthand experience is everything, because even
Yeah.
as the creator of the information, or, the product, the website, we were talking earlier about perspective. I know me personally, like I need that myself. Like people have to give me feedback and tell me what worked, what didn't work. Cause, everything's kind of from our perspective, but we were trying to help other people. So when we get like feedback from them, for like if my group put together a guide like that, I would think it'd be awesome. Cause it's like, this I tweaked your information, and this is kind of how it worked for me, and helping the most amount of people is, my goal. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to check it out. And like I said, man, I'm probably going to take like 2 good months. And that's not, my thing is, I just need to learn it, get the information down. And then once I know what I need to do, I can just start implementing it and create lifestyle changes. And that way it's not like something I actively think about. I just do it.
Yeah. And like stuff like the basketball is a really good kind of like starting point as just an example. I don't know what your lifestyle's like right now, but like if you still enjoy that, just as an example, then you got a reason to do it. And then also when you play, you don't need to think about active focus, because you're looking for the ball, you're looking for your teammates, you're constantly in motion. Like if you spend 2 hours playing basketball, like your eyes really got great distance vision time. And that's all you need. Like you make a few small tweaks and add one hobby or a thing that involves that kind of focus on eyesight, and it'll be super simple. Like it'll be super simple. Because we talked before about how you're like, this is going to take so long. But like every reduction, like every time you go down with the glasses, first of all, everything you see gets bigger, because one thing the glasses do is make everything smaller. Like if you take them off and you just move them in front of your eyes a little further away, you see how stuff gets smaller.
Right.
Like that's all your glasses do. So the stronger your glasses are, the smaller the world looks. And it's also like compressed, and the colors aren't right. So like every reduction makes the world a little bigger, and it looks more right. Like it's like if you get like high definition TV, like it gets better and better and better and better. So like if you have -4 diopters and say it's going to take you 4 years, it's not like, don't think about like the 4 years from now. It's like 6 months from now, you're going to see a different world than you see right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's going to be a difference. Like -4 is a lot different than -3, right? And -4 and -2 is like not even a comparison, you know?
Okay.
Like at -2, you can find your glasses after you put them down, and you can read your nightstand alarm clock.
Right. Yeah, that would be huge for me. And one thing I noticed as I was going through this process, when I was focused on healing my eyes or reversing my myopia, I actually was able to see my clock in the morning at like right. I could wake up, I could see it in the morning, but then by the nighttime I couldn't see it. And I think that's something that you've touched on, where your eyesight, depending on the time of day, the lighting, and how I guess fresh your eyes are, you see better or you see differently.
Yeah, that, by the way, because if that's always at night in the dark, right? Like if the clock always has the same, like no background lighting, and you can't read it at night, that usually means that focusing muscle is locked up more than it was in the morning. Like you sleep, right? And your eyes relax and that muscle relaxes. And then you spend too much time during the day looking at this thing with your glasses on. And by nighttime, that muscle's all locked up, right? Like if something like a night clock, it's a great thing because the like ambient lighting changes your how well you can see a lot. But if the thing's in the dark and it's always in the same spot and the same distance, in the morning you open your eyes, you can read it, and at night from the same place you can't. The only thing that really changed there is that muscle that all day long was super tense.
How
and if you
okay.
like if you would like get away from, if you start like practicing, like if you went and played basketball and took a shower and then went to bed, you could probably still read that alarm clock.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, and it's like that little stuff. Like once you start noticing all that, like it's almost impossible to not reverse your myopia once you're at that point where you start figuring out all these little details, because then you just want to tweak it. Like it's not that hard, right? And then you're like, okay, like I'm going to change, I'm going to not Netflix and go to bed, right? I'm going to throw in some time where I'm like using my eyes somewhere else.
Gotcha. How important would you say is daylight? Like versus, you know, you've got the different screens, blue screens and all of this, you know, artificial light versus like daylight.
It's a super big difference. Like I always tell people, like, if you can, work near a window, right? And it's one of those things where we don't even have to go all like far-fetched with theories. It's just you can measure how far you can see before there's blur. If you measure the distance in artificial light, I guarantee you it's going to be smaller than if you measure the distance in like natural daylight. Like if you print out an eye chart and you sit in a room with like fluorescent light, you're going to see that chart not nearly as well as if you go outside, like in the shade somewhere. Like it's both the outside light, it can be brighter as far as actual brightness than artificial light without getting like really like painful and uncomfortable. And also there's something about the light spectrum, like artificial light is a narrow spectrum lighting, and there's something about it that affects your acuity that I don't know exactly what that is, but it's definitely measurable that when you're in this weird artificial light, you can't see as far.
Have you noticed that eye sensitivity decreases as you reverse your myopia? Because I know some people are sensitive to certain lighting environments and things like that. Is there correlation?
I don't know. I think people change their lifestyle too much in general over the course of improving eyesight, because once you're kind of into it, you start noticing, wow, this messed up my eyes. I'm not going to do less of this. Like people tend to have better habits, right? Like over time, like you can't, I'm never saying don't change stuff overnight, right? Like, but maybe instead of 4 hours at night on Netflix, you cut it back to 3, right? Like it's already a difference. And then when people go, whoa, what about the blue light? And I can't sleep because of the blue light. It's like, well, you can't sleep because you're also having just generally bad habits. Like 4 hours of Netflix a night is not probably real good for you. Right. And so there's too much change that goes on as you're fixing your eyes, because you also realize like my whole life is just staring at freaking Instagram. Right. And so like now you're at minus 4.5 or whatever. By the time you're at minus 2, you're just going to have changed stuff because you're like slowly picking apart some of the stuff you're doing where you're like, it doesn't make sense for me to spend this much time in front of that stupid screen. Right. Like we live in a weird time with all this screen addiction stuff.
Yeah. I actually find that like even when I'm not working, because I use my phone and my computer a lot for work, obviously, but even when I'm not working, then I'll find time to fill those gaps with Instagram or, you know, something that I don't necessarily need to be doing. Like it's not helping me in any way. It's just like I'm kind of like in between tasks. So yeah.
And that's one of those things where I try to shut my mouth a bit, because it's like I don't want to be the crazy old dude, right? Because that's where we're at right now. Like, and especially like younger generations, or like I talk to people sometimes. I'm like, man, we're all out. We're like literally in a club. Like, do we not want to look up from these phones for a second? Like, but then people look at me like, shut up, Jake. Whatever, right? Like we're in a club. Like, really, you're on Instagram right now? Like, what are we doing? But it's so like you cannot compete with the screen. Like real life is just way slower. It's way less, like you're not getting these highs.
Mm-hmm.
And getting back to that slower speed of reward is really hard. And that's kind of like, I try not to go there because I'm like, it's bad enough that we're talking about eyesight.
Right.
Like screen addiction is like talking to people about sugar. Like, good luck.
Yeah, I was listening to one of the creators of the Facebook algorithm, I guess one of the early creators, programmers, and they were talking about how they purposely were creating these hot, like the like button. When you get likes or hearts or whatever, it actually does something. Is there's a chemical reaction in the brain. It releases endorphins or whatever it is, and it's feel good. And people, literally, the programming is addictive by design. And so it's like having the number one identify that this is addictive, just like a freaking Snickers. And then, then now saying, okay, I don't want that. I don't want to be addicted, but it feels good. It's like telling someone, stop having sex. Like, nah, I want to keep having sex. Like, but it's killing you. It's like, I might die happy though. So
Yeah.
people have to, I guess, realize what they're doing and see the benefit of like not being addicted to screens. I mean, because I think outside of just you're actually being able to see better, it affects you internally. They say that the eyes are the window to the soul. Like, I do believe that our eyes receive energy, and the energy is distorted by the glasses, obviously. And I think that, and this is just my theory. This is just when I look at the body holistically, I think that we can actually develop other diseases because of our poor eyesight. And I found that the body is like one, it's like one organism with different parts, but it's not like a car. The eyes aren't separate from the rest of the body. They're part of the body. So if the eyes are having issues or whatever, it can affect you other places.
Oh, 100%. Like, and that's not even, you don't even have to go far with that, because for example, like we're talking about peripheral vision, right? Like the glasses you wear, for example, they're pretty small. Like your posture is different from if you had a twin without glasses than that dude would be. Because for example, just for you to walk somewhere, like you don't have the peripheral vision the same way that somebody does without the glasses. You're looking at the ground, right? Like, especially if there's like places that you're unfamiliar with and outside and there's sidewalks and up and down, like you got to see the ground, right? So you're going to be like forward, right? Like you're not going to be like, it affects your confidence and your posture and how you stand and how you communicate, because like the walking and looking at the ground is one thing. And then like seeing people, right? Like without glasses, you have a lot more room. Whereas with glasses, you kind of like, people seem more like anxious and nervous. That's because their field of vision is super limited, right? Like, so they're looking at you, and if somebody here's talking, they got to be like, right? Like there's that, and the kids are way more anxious, right? Because you don't have peripheral vision working right. Like you feel like basketball, when that ball hits you in your head, like you get to the point where you're just like, I'm not saying you get a fear of the ball, but you get like anxiety, right? Because you're missing all the stuff.
No, that's really interesting, because I do have that forward posture, and I do tend to have to kind of look at the ground or whatever, and I always wondered why I developed that posture.
Yeah, and that's not you, man, and that's not attractive. You know what I mean? Because it also, like on a biological level, it signals there's something not right with this creature. Like, if you're in the wild, something would eat you because it'd be like, oh, this one will be easy to catch.
Dang, see, I like that we kind of were able to have this type of discussion where we can kind of flesh out some of the reasons why people should focus on reversing their myopia. Because like, it's not just as simple as just, put the glasses on and keep it moving. Like there's other aspects of this that are affecting you that, I mean, I know for me, that's actually a big one. So you hit, like, that's probably a perfect one to use on me. Cause Like I hate my posture, and I've tried to do things to correct it. And I'm like, man, this is weird. Like, how did this happen? There should be a natural way to correct it, or, you know, like besides like the crazy exercises and stuff they want you to do. And yeah, that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, and it goes, I mean, I could go on this forever. Like for example, when you're working on stuff, like if you're editing video, like you're gonna be way more hunchy, right? Because like now you're like, okay, I can't see this thing, so I'm gonna get a little closer to it. And all this, like it compoundingly adds up to this thing that, like, just not wearing glasses is not gonna correct that by itself. You're gonna still need other activities and exercises and get you back to a normal place. But if you're wearing glasses, you can do all those exercises and your body's still going to want to go back to that. Because when you go outside, you still need to see the ground, man, right? Like, and I can look forward because my peripheral vision is enough to also see, oh, there's probably a hole there. Like, you don't have that. Like, you got to look down at the ground.
Straight up. Definitely. Yeah, I actually attributed it to my height. I was just like, you know what? The world's not built for tall people. And I'm constantly hunching over and looking down at stuff. But this is just an angle that I never really considered. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jake,
and you really don't need those things. They're totally silly. Like the thing I always try to say is, like, your eyes aren't broken. Like, there's nothing wrong with them, right? Like, it's just a little too much screen time. And those glasses they were invented in the 16th century. You know what I mean? Like, they're not a medical device. Like, they're clear curved pieces of plastic. Like, you don't need those.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I would love to be a product of this process, because I think that one of the big things for me was, I'm like, yo, when I figure this thing out, I can promote this. And I actually was like, yo, this is going to be a huge hit. Now you're telling me that, you know, Google is attacking you, and it's really hard to get people to even want to do this. But I know that there's plenty of people out here who want to do it. They just need a clear cut path so that, you know, that we can get rid of all the noise. And it's like, okay, in this day and age, this is how you reverse your myopia. Because I've heard a lot of things. I've heard a lot of things, people instantaneously reversing their myopia. And I believe it, because I think the body has the ability to do amazing things, and we just need to understand it.
Yeah, with that stuff though, okay, I got a problem with that stuff because it sets unrealistic expectations.
Right.
You know, like, so if you understand the biology, right? Like, there's the focusing muscle spasm, which you could reverse your myopia, quote unquote, suddenly by relaxing that muscle. That's possible. But then you're like minus 4.5 diopter myopia is your eyeballs elongated by at least 1 millimeter. Like 3 diopters is about 1 millimeter. And your eyeball, it's not a muscle thing. It's actually like it elongates, like it's not held in place by muscles. Like the whole structure changes. And 1 diopter takes about a year. If it's an axial elongation thing, like it takes the eye about a year to change a diopter, right? So when people are like, oh man, I reversed all my myopia, and then like they got some magical thing they sell on the side of that, on top of it especially, it's like, man. And some people just, there's also like you could have gotten glasses that are too strong, like number one, for sure, right? Like you're wearing minus 4.5, like in 3 months, you might be at minus 3.5. Totally possible, right? And then you can use active focus, and you could probably make it work to like minus 2.75, right? And then you go outside, and it's a nice clear day, and like you can almost see like minus 2's worth, and that can feel like I don't need my glasses anymore, right? So like people put all that together, but then it rains for a week, and you're playing on Instagram, and like it's back to where it was.
Gotcha.
And because like people ignore that stuff, then it's like super depressing, you know? That's why I'm trying to be like, let's be realistic, and let's not go like full on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. People do the exact same thing to me. They will, you know, we talked about weight loss a little bit before, and they will see 20 pounds come off, you know, in days. days. I mean, it just doesn't take long. And then, especially if they're utilizing fasting, and then they will start eating, and then they'll put weight back on, or they will fast. Like some people will fast for 2-3 weeks at a time, and then they'll see the weight loss stop, and they'll be like, why am I not losing weight anymore? And it's like, because you don't understand the process, you don't understand your body, and you think that something's wrong when there's nothing wrong. You jumped in and you didn't know what you were doing, and you just had what you wanted to see happen wasn't realistic. It was never realistic to begin with, and now you're depressed, and now you want to quit, you want to give up because you feel like it's not working. So I'm with you, Jake. Was there any other major points that you wanted to get across before we kind of wrap things up?
I think, I mean, just the starting point for everybody, I would say, is what would you do, right? Like, how would your life be better if you didn't need those glasses? I think you and I had a good conversation because it's real easy with you because you got like good ideas, like you want to have better posture and you like sports. Like that's a super easy thing, right? Because people will like watch this or listen to this and they're like, oh, it's fascinating. Really, like myopia is not an illness. That's great. But then you need like a tangible, I want to be here. Like weight loss is super simple because you can imagine yourself looking like Superman, right? And you're like, I want that.
Right.
Way more easily than making that same leap with, I'm not wearing these things on my head, right? So that's really my biggest takeaway is just think about like, for the rest of your life, would you enjoy it more if you weren't stuck behind those things limiting what you can see?
Mm-hmm. You know what I think about? There was something else I thought about. If there was a natural disaster, or if it was an emergency situation, or anything in that realm where either your glasses got damaged, you lost them, or they got knocked off your face or something, what state would you be in? Because I think about that. Like what?
Oh, you'd be in a state of, I'm taking your car and your water supply.
Yeah, I mean, it's because we're so dependent on our eyes. It's like we're a fish out of water without them. And so, I mean, if for nothing else, maybe that will resonate with some people. It's just for emergency situations, it's better for you to have your eyes functioning optimally without the glasses, period.
And who knows what else you're going to discover, right? Like, who knows? I've had so many people where like the glasses was just kind of a catalyst for all kinds of interesting experiences. Like me kite surfing, like I would have never thought about that shit because you can't do that with glasses. You can't do that with contact lenses. And you can't do that when you're clumsy like I thought I was.
Right.
And it's amazing. Like I love that stuff. And I'm doing that because I was managing my screen addiction. So I was like, I got to find stuff to do, right? Because if I got nothing to do for long enough, eventually I'm just going to watch stuff on Netflix, right? So like I'm always looking for something to get me that high that I'm not getting off the screen. And then without glasses, I can do a bunch of stuff, right? Like I took freaking hang gliding lessons. I would have never done that, right? But I'm like, I'm bored and I'm going to get to the point where I'm going to play on a screen. So I'm like, what can I do? Like what's in this town that I could do? And that ends up changing your life, like in ways you didn't really think about, right? Because the glasses and the screens got you locked into this little thing where you could literally stay in that room that you're in right now till you run out of food, basically, right?
Yeah. Straight up. I did hear some people talking about like going to the movies, take your glasses off when you go to the movies. So what do you think about that? Like if you like movies and stuff like that, can they go to the movies, take their glasses off? Because I've actually tried it, and because the screen is so big, I can actually see what's going on.
To an extent. I mean, if you can clear up, if it's blurry, then it's not really helpful.
Okay.
If you can clear it up with effort, then that's a positive stimulus.
Okay.
Like if you work on that, like if anything you can clear up reasonably with a bit of effort, that's the direction you want to go.
Okay. Gotcha.
And you got to do it regularly. Like one time going to a movie and for 2 hours working on that screen and then not doing that again for a month doesn't do you any good. Like anything that you do like that needs to be kind of consistent.
Okay.
You know, like the basketball idea is good because then you go like, however many times a week. So you get that repeating stimulus that eventually your eyes go, fine, like I'll adjust to this, right?
One question I did want to ask you, because of what I teach and everything, I'm curious. Do you think that having a healthy body will help speed this process up? Like if you drink more water, if you eat more, watery fruits or healthy foods, would it also help with kind of reversing this myopia?
I would say that on the opposite side, it's not great if you don't have good habits like that. Like, for example, diabetes and myopia are linked. Like, diabetic people have myopia, and it's much harder to reverse while you're diabetic.
Oh,
And related to that, insulin spikes suck for your eyesight. Not everybody notices. I notice it, and I'm real low carb, so I generally don't, but I'll have like a cheat day and I'll eat some gluten-free pizza. And after that, I'm like, whoa, my eyes suck right now. Like that, the insulin spikes are not great. There's definitely a connection.
okay.
You're not going to reverse your myopia with diet changes,
Right.
but you will notice a difference when
Mm,
you're taking on bad diet habits. Like you definitely will.
gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. And I'm sorry, I thought of one more question. So do you still have to practice the techniques? Like once you do reverse your myopia, you get back to 20/20 vision. You can't go back to the old habits that got you there in the first place. Like, or are we less susceptible to it because we're just going to throw our glasses away? I mean, if you have a day or whatever where you feel like, oh man, it's not as clear, do you just kind of like shake it off and get away from the screen and you're fine? Or like, what's the maintenance like?
It doesn't, there's no end to it. Like if you never had myopia, you have a lot more latitude with some of these habits. Like for example, like I trade stocks and other stuff. Like I look at charts on screens, and sometimes there was recently, that was kind of an intense time where I spent a couple weeks just really working out a thing. Like I was hunting the whale, looking at like trends and charts and stuff, and you could not get me away from that screen because it was like, you know, the next year's salary was on the line.
Okay.
And when I'd finally get outside at like 5:30, sun setting, like the light's not that great, and I'm getting on my motorbike, and I'm like, I can't, I literally had a moment, and this is really embarrassing to say, where I was like, shit, I left my glasses at home.
Oh, wow.
Because I wore them for so long, and it was
Yeah.
just like, because I really couldn't see. I was like, shit, and that was my first instinct. And then I was like, wait, I don't wear glasses.
Right. Wow.
Right. And then I was like, and it literally, like, I was like, I had to go for a walk first. I spent an hour on a walk and just looking at street signs and trying to like relax the ciliary muscle to get back to a point where I could ride my motorbike. So like, you're not immune to it. You know what I mean? Like if you did like weight loss stuff and you're in great shape, you can only eat so many pizzas before you're going to feel like, wow, this is not headed in a good direction.
Right. And that's I think that's very important to point out. I don't know about you, but for me, hearing your story, like that would like freak me out, especially if I didn't understand. It's like I've done all this work. I spent 3-4 years, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh crap, I can't see. Where's my glasses? I can't see. Like that would. So I know like having an understanding of that, that there's maintenance involved, and that's how it is with weight loss or anything else. You're not immune to it. So you have to continue to maintain those good habits.
Yeah. And that's good I mean, it's the right thing anyway, because like when people go, well, I'm still going to have to work on it. It's like, you're still going to have to do the right thing, basically. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like this isn't a free pass to just live in a strip club, like
Right.
you still have to like, because all the things I was doing weren't good for me anyway. They weren't good for my posture. They weren't good for my health. Like sit in front of a screen 12 hours a day, like none of that was good. And my eyes were just like the thing reminding me, hey, you're not going in the right direction with it.
Gotcha. Um, Man, I'm not trying to keep asking you questions, but I'm just curious. Do you have any information about like eye floaties? Like, are eye floaties linked to this at all, or?
No, it's like protein and the aqueous humor in your eye. Like everybody has it to some degree. Like your brain tunes it out eventually.
Mm,
If you got a lot of it, there's a like I'm not a doctor and I can't give medical advice, but for people that get a lot of floaters, suddenly go to ophthalmologist, get a checkup. Um, with higher myopia, there's something called lattice degeneration and various other conditions where you're going to start noticing floaters, where basically like various things can go wrong. Your retina can start like not dissolving, but like pieces of it go hanging out in your eyeball. There's lots of things that can happen,
mm,
especially with higher myopia, sometimes with bad diet, with other things. It's always a thing where I wouldn't rely on the internet. I would just go for an eye checkup at an ophthalmologist, not at an optic shop, not an optometrist, but just go, once a year eye checkup. When you improve your eyesight, sometimes people notice the floaters that they always had a little bit more,
mm.
but that's just because you're paying attention to your vision. And those are just like we all have them. Like those protein bits floating around in the liquid that's in your eyeball,
Mhm.
that's in everybody's eyeball.
Okay. All right. Well, this has been very insightful and perfectly timed for me personally, because I literally was just talking about spending the time to focus on this to learn. I'm gonna probably take about 2 months and just learn and focus on me and taking my health to the next level. And I look forward to getting into your information finally and really starting the process of applying it. I'm gonna look for I actually have a member, one of my members, her sister, if I'm not mistaken, or her cousin lives out here where I'm at, and she's an optometrist, I believe. And I think that she might work with me to, give me like the less strong prescriptions and things like that.
That's
But if
cool because if you have an optometrist, they have a test lens kit, right? Which is like a frame and they can swap out the lenses in it.
Mhm.
That's super nice because then you can really like, you can show up there, bribe them with some coffee and healthy food. I always say donuts, but I'm figuring out I shouldn't say donuts, right? And you bring your laptop or whatever and you put it where you'd normally put it, and you put about a diopter and a half less in in the test lens kit, and you can actually try it out with the devices.
Good idea.
Yeah, and those are expensive if you get a good one. So it's nice to have an optometrist, and it's also nice like if it's somebody who's cool and who supports you and doesn't like sabotage you
Mhm.
by refusing to acknowledge when your vision improves. It's really nice to have them like for those checkups and for
Right.
them to actually agree and say, yeah, you can get away with less doctors now. In
Wow.
our Facebook group, there's tons of stories of people where they're friendly optometrists and the optometrist actually gives them the lower so-called prescription. And that's kind of like it makes you feel good, right? Like it's
Mhm.
not just you going, yeah, I can see better, but somebody who's got that authority that people respect agreeing with you. That's always
Right.
nice.
Yeah. I could certainly see how that would be a huge benefit because it's like it's validation. It's like this is
Right. Yeah,
working.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been insightful, no pun intended. And I'm glad we got to do this. Um, hopefully we could chat some more. And I definitely, a year from now, I'd like to see that I've got some major improvement to report, because that's basically I gave myself a year last time when I was trying this. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this for a year, and a year from now my eyes gonna improve. And I did. I got them down to like a 4 where I could see, I could see fine. But that was just, I think, from overcorrection. That was really all that was. And I actually asked my optometrist about it. I was like, do you all overcorrect sometimes? And she was just like, what do you mean? And I'm like, you give stronger prescriptions than what someone really needs. And she's like, well, I'm like, she's like, I don't do that. I'm like, does it ever happen? Like, is it something that would happen? And she finally was like, yeah, well, we want you to have the best vision possible. And I'm like, okay. So I did find out that they do that sometimes, I guess, for whatever reason. But
Well, it's like and there's no malice there. they're just trying to give you the best possible product. So a lot of them will stick you in a dark room. In a dark room, your vision's not going to be that great. There's going to be that chart with one little crappy light on it, right? You're already going to be nervous. They're not telling you what strength of diopters they're putting in front of your eyes. They just go, is this better? Is this better? This better? This better? And you put all those things together, a dark room and the dimly lit chart, and you not knowing what you're seeing, you end up with the strongest diopters possible.
Straight up.
But in their eyes, that's the best product, right? Because now the glasses you're wearing, you're going to see something no matter what. Right? So you're going to be happy as a customer.
Gotcha. Which makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
All right, Jake. So in myopia.org, make sure you all go check it out. If you've got a friend or family member who has been expressing that they want to, improve their vision, or if they're considering LASIK or something crazy like that. I know me personally, I was just like, I'd rather keep my glasses than risk LASIK, just because it's like, even if there's only a 5% chance that I could go blind or want to commit suicide because my eyes are in so much pain, I don't want to take that chance. It's like, it's not worth it to me. So I'm just going to stay away from LASIK and everything else. I've heard enough about that. But if you guys are looking to find a natural route, that's what a healthy alternative is all about, is teaching, natural healing, letting your body heal itself. And it sounds like, and I've researched enough about it to know that Jake's methods will work. Like, it's not rocket science. It's just really just doing it. And that's the thing, is like, you gotta do it and be consistent. So if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe. Check out Jake's website. You also have Facebook, right? Facebook.
Yeah,
group.
we got a Facebook group, and we have a YouTube channel also.
Okay. All of it is in myopia.
Yes, and myopia. Yeah, it's all of it. Yep.
Okay. All right, guys, go check it out. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. And as always, the application of knowledge is power. And I will see you all next time.